So Zillow is lying to you. Not really, but kind of. A lot of people moving to Jacksonville make this mistake. They look at the list price and then they look at the little payment estimate online thing and they think, okay, I can afford that. But in Florida, that number might not be the real number because your house payment is not just the mortgage. It can be the mortgage, property taxes, homeowners insurance, maybe flood insurance, HOA, and sometimes a CDD. So today I want to talk about some of the hidden costs that buyers could miss when they're making the move to Jacksonville, especially buyers coming from up north, because Jacksonville can still be a great value, but you need to count the whole cost, not just the part that Zillow's showing you. So let's look at two common examples: an older home in Jacksonville and a newer Jacksonville home in a community with a CDD, because both can be really good options, but the costs show up in different places. First, the older Jacksonville home. This is the one a lot of buyers love. It's got big trees, it's got established streets, more character, maybe no HOA, maybe a bigger lot, but it also feels less cookie cutter. And I get it. There are a lot of great older homes in Jacksonville, but here's the part that people still miss. Older homes can be more expensive to insure. Not always, but often enough that you probably should check early. In Florida, insurance is not just about the price of the home. It can also depend on the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, the age of the house, the water heater, the location, wind mitigation, and even a lot of the times just the flood exposure. So two homes could have the same price, but actually be very, very different monthly payments. That older home may look cheaper online, but then you get the insurance quote and suddenly that deal isn't looking quite as affordable as you thought. If you're looking at an older Jacksonville home, get an insurance quote early in the process, not after you fall in love with the kitchen, not after you name the guest room, and not after you mentally put the couch or the sectional where it's going to go. Do it early because the insurance number matters a lot. So now let's talk about taxes. This one catches a lot of Florida buyers off guard. The seller's tax bill probably isn't going to be your tax bill, and that's really important. In Florida, we have something called homesteading. Homesteading matters a lot. Portability matters a lot. And the current owner may have a lower taxable value because they've owned the home for a long time. When you buy the house, the taxes may reset based on the new sale price. Probably will. That means that the current tax number online can be very misleading. Not because anyone's trying to trick you, but just because the seller's current situation, they're taking advantage of something that we have here in Florida. It's their advantage, but it's not yours at this point. When you're comparing homes, don't just ask, what are the current taxes? You need to ask, what are my taxes likely to be after I buy it? That's a much better question. Now, the other big one with older homes is flood risk. Jacksonville has water everywhere. We've got rivers and creeks and low-lying areas, and there's a coastal influence. So flood zones matter. This doesn't mean that you need to panic. It just means that you need to check. Is the home in a flood zone? Well, yes, but is it X or is it a flood zone that would require flood insurance? Even if it's not required, would it still be smart? And how could that affect a resale later on? These aren't the fun questions. Nobody wakes up in the morning excited to talk about flood maps and FEMA, but these questions could save you a lot of money and stress later on. With older Jacksonville homes, the big three things to look at are insurance, taxes, and flood risk. That's where a lot of the hidden costs live. So now let's talk about the newer homes in Jacksonville, because these can look a lot easier. They have newer or new roofs, newer systems, updated layouts, better energy efficiency, and a lot of times they're better insurance options. And that can be a real advantage. But newer homes can come with their own costs. This is where you may start seeing higher HOA fees and sometimes that pesky CDD. And a CDD is not something that's the same as an HOA. And that's the first thing to understand. An HOA usually deals with community rules, common areas, and neighborhood standards. CDD is a little bit different. I know we've talked about it in other videos, but we'll touch on it here quick too. It's a community development district, easy for me to say. In simple terms, it pays for infrastructure and community improvements, things like roads and utilities and stormwater systems and landscaping and the amenities. And the CDD usually shows up on your property tax bill. So buyers may not notice it at first when they're just looking at the listing. And this is where people often get surprised. They see a builder incentive, they see a lower rate, they see the shiny model home. And listen, builder incentives, a lot of times, they're really good. Lower rate can definitely help, but you still have to count everything. And when you look at the rate, and if you ignore the HOA and the CDD, taxes, insurance, you're not comparing the actual whole real cost. You're comparing against the commercial. That's like judging a burger by the picture on the menu. We all know how that works out. So with a newer Jacksonville home, ask these questions. What's the HOA? What is the CDD? How long does the bond last on the CDD? How much is the annual amount? Does it change? Is it already included in the estimate that I'm seeing? What it boils down to for everything is, what does the full monthly payment look like? That number is the one that matters. Not the list price. It's not the teaser rate. It's not the payment estimate that may be missing half the story. You need to know the full monthly number. Now, here's the key point. Older homes aren't bad and newer homes aren't bad. They just have different cost structures. An older Jacksonville home is going to give you more character, bigger trees, an established area, and probably no CDD fees. But you have to watch insurance, roof age, household systems, flood risk, and future repairs. A newer Jacksonville home may give you some newer systems and better efficiency and fewer repair concerns up front, but you may have to worry about HOA fees, CDD fees, and a higher tax bill than you expected. So the question is not which one's cheaper. The better question is, which one fits my budget better after I count the whole cost? And that is what buyers need to understand, especially if you're moving here from up north, because Florida does not always charge you in the same places that you're used to. You may be used to basements. We pretty much don't have those here, at least in Northeast Florida. You might be used to different property tax rules. Well, Florida has its own system. You might be used to different insurance costs. Florida insurance is its own animal. And I say this as someone who lives here and loves it here. Jacksonville is a great place to buy, but you just need to know what you're buying into, not just the house, the whole monthly cost. So before you get serious about a home, ask for the real number: principal and interest, taxes, insurance, flood insurance if needed, HOA, CDD if there is one, and then ask at least one more question. What could change? Could the taxes reset? Could insurance be higher than expected? Could the CDD operation and maintenance amount change in the future? Could flood insurance be required? Those are the questions that protect you, because the goal is not just to get a house. The goal is to get a house that you still feel good about 6 months after closing. That matters a lot. So if you're relocating to Jacksonville and you're trying to compare an older home with higher insurance risk against a newer home with HOA and CDD fees, if you want, send me the listing. I'm happy to take a look at it, and with my partners, help you figure out the real monthly cost, not just the pretty one online. Because in Florida, the hidden costs are not always scary, but they are very real. And it's much better to find them before closing than after you already brought home that welcome home mat and put it out front.